Good afternoon, folks. Triple Crown here, coming to you from Vancouver, British Columbia. I just returned from the hobby paint store. I've had some questions. People send me private messages asking me about some of the paints that I used. So I just thought this has been an evolution for me. So I just thought I would touch base. These are all the paints currently in my arsenal. Now, I started out with the acrylic paints. You can buy these on Amazon, and they come in multiple different colors. You open it up, and you can see there, there's two rows of paints, or you can buy a kit. They come in a bottle. And I started trying to mix colors, to play around, and I found it difficulty, getting things quite right. And I found also with this paint, it's a little bit thicker, and sometimes when you're applying it or painting the little small pieces, it sort of has a blotchy finish. It's not a smooth, nice painted finish. So others that I've been sharing my painting projects with commented on, thinning the paints out. And so I switched to these little Tamiya guys here. And the consistency when you're painting, you don't have to thin it out. It's absolutely perfect when you brush it on. So much nicer finish. These are also acrylic, so it's water based. And why I've sort of transitioned to sort of these specific colors is whether or not I use the Luftwaffe green for American stuff or vice versa, it doesn't really matter. But what I've noticed is when I am painting, sometimes what happens is I need to touch it up a day later on. I need to apply a second coat. And if whatever I mixed, like the day before, if I mix the perfect color green, it's very hard to replicate the following day. So whatever colors I choose to use here, I know I can find it again and it's going to be the same color. And I'm just amazed at when you go, I'm just going to go over some of these paints real quickly. Like this is the dark green, the IJA, it stands for industrial, or can't remember, but that's the Japanese. That's the Luftwaffe green, the dark green. Luftwaffe violet, that's a gray. Look at this, like this baby powder blue or this light blue. Another good for underside of planes is this ghost gray. But my favorite gray for underneath planes is this INJ green. The more Luftwaffe green. You can see there. So these are the colors that I've been using. This is the RAF dark green in the RAF earth. So this is going to be my next project. And that's obviously the U.S. Navy intermediate blue. This is what I did my my fighters and dive bombers with. So love these colors, the olive drab. And probably out of these paints here, the ones that I really like the most, you can see the contrast in colors between the different browns and greens. And this is the skin tone color that I use. I think it's even called the flesh skin tone. But this yellow is just fantastic. It's kind of a flat yellow. And it goes on. You do have to do more than one coat, but it just stands out really well. Same with the white, which I find white is hard to get the right consistency if you're using more of these kinds of paints. And I have not used these paints yet. These are, I believe, an enamel-based paint, but you can see, folks, this is specific to the Russians. And look at that sort of dirty green, browny color. Sort of authentic to the actual Russians. And this is a a German gray, like very specific colors to the actual colors. I mean, so I think these are absolutely, that's another German gray. Now I see these are for sale from HBG and other sites. These Valley Hosts. I've never used them before, but this is very specific. You get all the colors in one. So I have not to try this, but I'm excited to do it. Now, when I'm starting to paint stuff, here's some more colors. And again, look at this. It's Mitsubishi green, like very, very, very detailed. So folks, these do cost a little bit of money, but I think it's well worth it. Usually before I paint anything, I apply the gray primer from Rust-Oleum. This is a bigger can. It dries in about 20 minutes. Seems to work fairly well. And if sometimes you get oil or whatever on, but if there's going to be a problem before I apply these paints, if there's an issue, I'm going to know with the primer. So that's usually the base that I start with. And then once I start with the base, then I would apply, one of these paints out of the can. And I find with the planes, for example, you can actually paint like the base and then flip it over and paint the other side, and the bottom would be one color and the top would be another, and it's fairly consistent. Like, it doesn't look like crap in my experience. So pick another color that you want to do, and then I would switch to brushes, whether it's an enamel or an acrylic base. And from that point, you let it dry, and you can either then apply a dry brush method or a dip. Now, people have asked, what does the dip mean? You can buy this. This is like a polyurethane. This is like a wood stain. This is called Special Walnut. After you're finished painting your unit, you go, heck no, I'm not. I've spent all that time. I'm not going to dip it in there. This will give it that dirty sort of dirt look, that weathered look, as you see in a lot of the BBR stuff. And now the dry brush method, this is a Canadian, the new Canadian sculpt. That's a white dry brush. You can see it kind of gives it kind of a weathered look. And people are asking what color I use for the Canadians. I use a dark green. It's a Behr paint. It's the Congo. So that's the paint I use. For the B29s, I use the sort of metallic finish. And then once I've done all that, I've dipped it or I've dry brushed it, then I would apply my decals. And then the final coat is this here, this matte clear. So that's the final coat, just to kind of seal everything in. Anyways, folks, that is sort of the summation of the paints that that I'm going to start use or have used. Please share if you've got any tips or colors that you like to use for specific units. But it's very amazing. When you say Google, German Panther tank or German fighter, whatever it is, you can find a multiple palette of different color schemes. So pick whatever you like, whatever your preference is. If you want more of a green or you want a gray finish, there's multiple different paint schemes that were used for the different aircraft or whatever it was during World War II. So I've tried to go with unit paint jobs that I like and ones that are able to contrast the units from each other, meaning if you have different fighters or different infantry, how are you going to be able to identify them easily? So that's the kind of method I've gone with. And in closing, I'm going to say, as you can see, folks, I'm diving in deep. So if there's a hobby or something you're passionate about, don't be scared and dive in deep. So that's the message of today, folks. Thank you for watching.